First they came out and said it wasn't real, and now apparently J.P. Morgan is doing $1 million, like I don't know,
Settlement.
settlement or something to try to avoid going to trial. Something is going on. Obviously, something's fishy.
Yeah, something happened, but this guy. You look at the pictures and the story and the
Right.
description of what happened in the trial, and the stuff that this guy says.
I mean,
I
it's
don't,
just like absurd. I don't know. In one sense, you don't want to discount what a potential victim is saying, right?
yeah,
But it just also seems so absurd that, when the more details came out, apparently that lady, Lorna Hajdini, I think was her name, and then this guy, they're on the same team. Like, she's not his supervisor, which was one of the main premises initially in the complaint that
yeah.
she had power to ruin his career, promotion ability, whatever it was. So, I mean, that was false. And that's kind of what everything is predicated on. If there wasn't a power dynamic, then I mean,
Yeah, he
it
wasn't
seemed like
working directly under her. But
yeah, exactly. I don't know. My theory is that I don't know. They were having an affair and the guy was cheating on his wife, and they found out, and to try to save face, he started this scandal. But I don't know.
no, my theory is that this guy was doing something very illegal, or she was doing something very illegal, and he was threatened to be fired, and then he came up with this story and this idea, and then started threatening them, so he doesn't get indicted or caught, and now they're just paying him $1 million to be quiet.
Yeah,
Uh,
the funniest thing is like the memes, like when it first came out, there's so many memes of like people running like to sign up to be JP Morgan interns and apparently like the chick shut down her LinkedIn because she was getting so many DMs of like people asking to be hired by her. I
yeah,
mean,
I
the
mean,
internet is undefeated,
people,
but it's just so funny.
but the account of the story, like him, just the sentences and the words, like him saying the stuff that she said to him, is straight out of a, like, one of those
Dude,
adult
it's like
movies.
a 90s comedy movie is like
Yeah,
some of the lines. I mean, like fish head. I mean, I've never even heard of that before. Like, is that a real derogatory term or is that
yeah.
just made up? I was like,
Apparently, that's a term for to like insult Asians, but
I've never even heard of it before.
I've never heard of it. But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff
I
going
know.
on in
And
the
then he
world.
was apparently allegedly saying like she said that I don't even know, his wife or girlfriend or whatever like has small breasts. That was one thing, and she's like doesn't have cannons like these. Like who talks like that? Oh man, it
Yeah.
cracked me up. I was dying laughing when I read this. One of my friends sent it to me like when the story first broke. And dude, I was cracking up. I was sitting in like clinic in between patients and I was like, "Oh my God, this is absurd." And the resident was sitting next to me and I was like, "Dude, look at this. Have you heard of this story? This is like happening right now. This is absurd."
Yeah.
Oh man,
I
it's
mean,
hilarious.
at first they didn't release the images or pictures or names of the people that are involved.
Yeah.
Then they released the picture of the guy, and but it's kind of sad, if this was this was flipped in a way, like that would be much more believable.
Like if the genders
In
were flipped?
the genders were flipped, it
Oh
would
yeah,
be, people
totally.
would definitely jump on it, and it would be a big. People would believe the victim more. In this case, because the guy is a victim this time, people are not really believing him. But the story is also very unbelievable.
Yeah, the story is absurd too, but I mean, I agree with you. I think if the genders were flipped, people are more likely to believe that I guess a man would abuse his power for sexual favors rather than a woman abusing her power. But yeah, it could happen either way.
Yeah, man. Like the world has become such a place full of grifters. There's so many people just trying to scam out of the way, trying to make quick money. Leaving all their ethics around, behind them, and kind of just trying to find shortcuts to wealth,
Just
right?
make a
And
quick buck. Yeah.
big buck, and that brings us to like this big story that broke recently by you know there's a Substack by Scott Carney, and the story broke about the miracle treatment that almost killed them. It's a pretty interesting story about Mark Hyman and Jordan B. Peterson and this doctor named Adil Khan. Um, did you read that story? Right, we
Yeah,
kind of
man. I mean, it's crazy because Mark Hyman and Peterson are two very famous podcasters, and Hyman especially has written a bunch of books, and he's big in this whole longevity wellness space, which we've talked about on a few episodes now. And they're both patients of this one doctor, Adil Khan, who he bills himself. He's a Canadian trained MD, and he bills himself as this not only wellness but like real regenerative and functional medicine guru and expert, who's an expert in stem cell treatment, injections into joints, into spinal spaces and stuff to improve disc degeneration, improve stenosis, improve arthritis, a bunch of stuff like that. And apparently, as the story goes, he injected Hyman into Hyman's epidural space. Epidural space meaning the space around your spinal canal, your spinal cord, which is a very immune privileged space. And that's where the cerebrospinal fluid is. It's continuous with your brain. He injected that space with this cocktail of mesenchymal stem cells and exosomes. And apparently Hyman, and this is alleged, but it was in the Substack, apparently Hyman developed a huge epidural abscess from that and nearly died. And it's funny because he has spat in the face of conventional, traditional, real medicine his whole career. That's kind of what's given him his platform and his
Yeah.
claim to fame. And now he had this happen, and what happened? He had to go to a real hospital and have real emergency neurosurgery to evacuate this abscess from this basically farcical treatment that he has touted himself. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, a lot of conflict of
Yeah,
interest on
there's a
Hyman's
lot of
part
different
too.
things to unpack. So, this guy, Mark Hyman, I mean, he's known as functional medicine. This functional medicine has become this huge talking point,
And
and
like,
people,
what the hell is functional medicine?
yeah, I mean, they have certifications. People are, there's people, not practicing physicians, but non-MDs or DOs that are taking a lot of these functional medicine courses. Some MDs as well, and some MDs and DOs as well. But they're taking these functional medicine courses, and it kind of, it's easy to sell yourself. Hey, like I'm not a doctor that likes medicine and giving you all these pharmaceutical pills. I like giving you natural therapies. I like giving you supplements. That come to me, and I think doctors are making you sick. And this cure to you is this supplement that I made is named after me, and I combine all these different vitamin B12 with L-theanine and whatnot, and this will help save your life and decrease your inflammation. I mean, functional medicine just keeps talking about inflammation, and I can't tell you that the rise of that language and those talking points over the past few years. I mean, I've seen it. As more and more people have started listening to podcasts and doing their own research online, these terms keep coming up. Oh, I want to reduce my inflammation. I have, I'm very inflammatory. I'm taking these supplements. I need something natural.
It is very inflammatory.
Yeah.
Their whole premise is inflammatory, in my opinion. But
Whole premise is inflammatory. There's no research, no randomized
right.
controlled trials, no large patient data behind it, right? No real proof that this really medicine works. I mean, a lot of the patients show up with all these elaborate tests for $600-$700 that they've done on their gut biome, and they show up and they said, this is I'm deficient in zinc and LP767 in my gut, whatever. I'm just making words up now. Yeah, it might as well be. And then look at these results, and you see this elaborate report. It looks fancy and nice and seems like it's something, but where's the action? What does it truly mean? And then they have all these people just telling them, hey, to help with these deficiencies that we just found nutritionally in your body, take this supplement that who knows what's in there to help yourself. And this is kind of what Mark Hyman has been pushing for all these years, right? He pushes all these fringe testing supplements and weird longevity routines, and he has a big podcast a lot of people listen to, over 1,000+ episodes.
Super popular.
Yeah.
I mean, he's written like 12 books that are all bestsellers. Obviously the guy is great at marketing himself,
Yeah.
but I mean, his whole premise and model, in my mind, very simply, is come up with a bunch of these. I mean, whatever, these fake or pseudoscience diagnostic algorithms and a bunch of tests, just so that it justifies him selling you the products that he brands and that he makes money off of directly.
Yeah.
And not just him, there's others too. I mean, we're just singling him out because this was in the news story. But I mean, this is not evidence-based. This is not real, validated, reproduced science across the board. I mean, this
Yeah.
is, you can call it fringe. Some people would call it cutting edge to put a positive spin on it. I mean, the fact of the matter is we just don't know. You don't know what the efficacy is, meaning the positive benefit of something, and the side effect profile. And they're not studies that are done in a longitudinal basis. There's not randomization. You don't have long-term data on it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's experimental, and people should just come out and say it. There's nothing wrong with experimental treatment, but you should be forthcoming about it rather than pitching it from the angle that somehow I am above the rest and have found some new thing, some new secret. Come to me, give me your money, and I will share my secret medicine with you.
But this is the example, right? These guys are what they do is they say that they take these supplements. They're doing this on their own bodies, so yeah, you should do it too. First, number one, I don't trust people who are benefiting from other people taking a certain medication, right? In terms of as physicians or doctors, if you're a doctor and your main source of income is motivated by a patient taking that medication that you're selling, and every time you sell a pill and give a patient a pill, you make profit, and that just the incentive motive is just misaligned there, right? The first thing is that. The second thing is they're very forthcoming about the benefits of what they're doing, and their sauna routine and their cold plunging routine and the supplements they're taking, and they'll sell that. But then stuff like this, when something like this happens, they completely hide it. So Mark Hyman has been very quiet about it. He has not talked about what really happened.
And
He would
even
not
beyond being quiet about it, I mean, he's tried to hide it,
hide
right?
it.
Like I think one of the only, if the only podcast episode he's had that he has deleted completely is his episode with that doctor Adil Khan. Like that
Yeah.
episode is gone now.
Yeah, so he disappeared for 6 months. No one knew where he was. Yeah, he was probably sick, suffering from sepsis from this epidural.
Maybe in an ICU.
Yeah, and then he returned on the first episode he did. Was returning on Jay Shetty's podcast, talk about another, you know, guy that's kind of in a similar realm. I feel.
He's a good public speaker, though. I'll give him that.
Yeah, a good speaker. I mean, they're famous because they're skilled. They can talk and they can have
Yeah.
a good conversation and they can make people believe themselves. But he appeared on the podcast and just kind of even was asked about the whole episode of Adil Khan and has been very vague about it over the years. And the Carney article kind of uncovered the UCSF records where he was treated for emergency surgery apparently for the epidural abscess, and in the end conventional medicine had to save him. Everything that he's been talking about, longevity and supplements and living forever, conventional medicine, actual doctors saving his life in the ICU, preventing him from getting paralyzed forever, leg down, waist down. That's what came in play in the end, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's like, I mean, on the one hand, if you just look at it purely from, a business marketing standpoint, if you eliminate like the ethics of medicine, these guys like Mark Hyman, Jordan Peterson, Adil Khan, and many others, a lot of these so-called wellness influencers, functional medicine, regenerative medicine people, I mean, they're doing great for themselves, better than any physician who practices real medicine. I mean, they have an excellent marketing strategy. They're getting their voice out via podcasts, interviews, books, YouTube shorts. I mean, the whole deal, right? They're creating products, their own brand, or they're partnering with other brands and they're selling it. So, I mean, they're very successful businessmen and very successful marketers. That's no question about it. I think the challenge is when people come to you, your customers, who still view themselves as a patient, and they view it as like still a healthcare relationship, like a doctor-physician relationship in some way, rather than just going to GNC and picking up a new bottle of zinc or a new bottle of magnesium. It's different when it's coming from a doctor who is using their medical expertise, their on paper board certification, whatever it is, and they're using that to justify that this is somehow legitimate and it is somehow validated and science-based. I think that's where the real danger comes in, and people exploit that. I mean, human nature is that. I mean, there's people like that in every industry.
Yeah, I mean, most doctors are confined by a lot of regulatory agencies, right? I mean, we as physicians should practice medicine that's guideline based and evidence based, right? Not always guideline based, but evidence based. Guidelines are a little slow usually, but evidence based medicine is very important. You have to use evidence to be able to tell patients, hey, this works, this does not work. Right, that's one thing. The second thing is we're confined by the laws of the country, and things have to be FDA approved for us to recommend them, right? We cannot just approve and recommend things that are not approved by the FDA or not tested. And that's why Adil Khan, like, he does not have clinics in the United States. He practices in Cabo, Mexico, in Dubai, in Japan, where the same regulatory conditions do not apply. There's a reason, because a lot of the stuff that he does is not approved by the FDA or any regulatory agency and has not gone through the testing. That's why he has to go to other countries. He gives free treatments to a lot of celebrity guests that can come into his clinics and post about it, and then that's how he gets a lot of other rich people to pay for his treatments, right?
Yeah, and so like to talk about him for a sec, so Adil Khan, he's a real doctor. He has an MD. He's Canadian trained, board certified. I believe it was family medicine or something like that. Was his specialty, and he got into this regenerative medicine space, and one of his big claims to fame is the whole premise of Muse cells. Um, these special types of dedifferentiated pluripotent stem cells that primarily come from the bone marrow and can become like basically any cell lineage. That's what pluripotent means. And he worked directly with the person that first discovered these. And so that gives him some legitimacy in this whole world of regenerative medicine, that he's kind of like the first person to commercialize this, that you can do, bone marrow aspirates or whatever have you, and now inject these Muse cells, and they can have very beneficial regenerative effects. That's the premise behind it, right? And there is a lot of in vivo and in vitro studies on Muse cells specifically. So it's not that it's all farce. It's just, I think, kind of what you're talking about, Humayun, the way that he's going about it, like almost like definitively is saying that this is going to help you, this is proven, but it's kind of like track record versus real scientific evidence are two very different things.
Yeah.
And like giving free treatment as almost like a sponsorship to celebrities and famous influencers and Instagram personalities so that they can post about your product and give you legitimacy, right? You get social proof that way, just like Coca-Cola will give you lifetime supply if you're in their commercials. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But that will make other people buy Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with this stuff. People see on Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff, Kim Kardashian posting about how she went to see Adil Khan at his clinic in Mexico. Zac Efron went and saw the same doctor at one of his clinics and joined like a membership premier program. Chris Hemsworth went and saw him in Dubai to do the same stuff, right? And so, these are real celebrities that are role models for people. And when you use that, and this funny, if you look up this guy, there's a bunch of Reddit posts. And people that have gone to his clinics and gotten consultations with him, and it's not just him, it's a bunch of other doctors that he works with or they work under him, and he's kind of like the face of it, but a lot of them do more of the treatments. And some of the treatments, the cash pay price that people are posting on Reddit, that they're being charged like $18,000 for an exosome injection, six
Wow.
thousand bucks for an individual like stem cell injection. Crazy prices, dude, crazy prices, all
Yeah. I
cash
mean,
pay.
yeah, I mean, definitely that's crazy, right? $18,000 just, and mostly
Yeah.
it is a rich people treatment. A lot of people who can afford it can throw away $18,000 for some kind of experimental therapy. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, there are some studies that have shown benefits. I mean, there's one case study, right? A first human report with some relief with the epidural MSC injection. There's some 10 patient trial from Mayo Clinic that showed some mild benefits as well, but it was a very early, small, controlled trial in a small setting, right? Um, but in the end, do we know that can we recommend, and can we, as someone uh, who has sworn, like, do no harm, can I recommend that to patients and be sure that the potential benefit from this outweighs any kind of harm that it causes, right? There's a 5 to 31% incidence of some kind of complications, and anyone who gets this infection, there's around more than 20% chance of getting back spasms, a UTI, or some kind of muscles neuropathic pain from these. You can injure nerves as well. So a 20% risk of getting UTIs, is that, and maybe even leading to an abscess that Mark Hyman got, is that worth it, right? Is that worth the risk? And we don't know unless you do large scale trials to kind of prove that this works. That if you start doing this, and this becomes more affordable, and more people start doing it for a cheap cost, and everyone starts flocking to these clinics, the amount of harm we can do in a number of people, that could be kind of disastrous and pretty bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my thought on it is kind of split a little bit. Like, on the one sense, if you've got the money to pay for it, who is anyone else to stop you from doing
Yeah.
it, right? You're,
Hmm.
in one sense, you're harming, or maybe not harming. I mean, who knows? Like, who knows in 10 years, some of this stuff, muse
It could
therapy,
be.
may be just as prevalent as PRP is today, which when PRP first came about, it wasn't allowed to be done in the US. Like, athletes were going to Europe and Germany. And I think, Kobe was famous for stuff like that, that he was going to Germany for procedures, and everyone thought it was quackery. And turned out it was very legitimate. I mean, it's done with great evidence today. I don't know. I'm not going to go out and
Yeah.
claim all this is BS. I just think like the way that it's being done by, these influencer doctors rather than in a legitimate scientific process as the first step makes me automatically skeptical. And I think it should
Yeah.
make everyone automatically skeptical because of the financial conflicts that you talked about. But that doesn't mean it's nonsense. I
No,
just
it's
think
not.
like it needs legitimacy in real studies. And if you're rich enough and want to go fly to Japan or Dubai or wherever and go get these treatments because you believe in it, you have read whatever science exists and you believe in it, I mean, go do it. But you're accepting the risk, right? And I think that's that's a huge factor. It's not your traditional medical liability thing. I mean, this
Yeah.
is obviously outside the realm of FDA and all of
No,
that stuff.
I agree with that, and definitely we need to have an open mind about any cutting edge treatments like this, right? But if you're looking at 10 patients that you're going to inject with this, and out of them maybe two would really significantly benefit, but five of them will get significant UTIs with epidural, infections or sepsis.
Yeah.
Is that truly worth it? Yeah, some things could work, but does the risk of it outweighs the benefit, or benefit outweighs the risk? We don't know that. We won't know that until we do some clinical trials, right? And that's one of the big reasons we wanted to do this podcast that hopefully people will start listening to one day. Is that we wanted to have real physician voices out there, because there's a lot of non-physicians, a lot of quacks that are out there saying a lot of making a lot of claims. I always thought it was a good idea that actual real doctors that are practicing, seeing patients, seeing 25, 30 patients a day, 40 patients a day, treating patients in the hospital, saving lives, are the ones coming on and talking. And that's one of the goals we had when we started this podcast. And to kind of spread information about this, and what when people always have these questions, and now it's become easy for me. A lot of times people ask me questions about peptides, I tell them, hey, go watch this episode. Or people ask me questions about
Yeah.
exercise, and now people will ask me questions about MSC injections for the spine. I can be like, hey, go listen to this episode.
Yeah, there you go.
The other question I get a lot is about testosterone therapy, and that or performance enhancing drugs, and what kind of effect they have on the heart. And the other interesting story is this new enhanced games that's starting in a couple of weeks in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's pretty much Olympics, or some kind of
Doped up
multi-sport.
Olympics,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, drugged up Olympics where there's a bunch of different sports like swimming and gymnastics and whatnot and wrestling, but with people are able to use performance enhancing drugs that are FDA approved. So it's kind of interesting concept, and it's under physician supervision. There's athletes that are planning on injecting themselves and making sure they're at peak performance, optimizing their bodies, kind of along the same line, right? Like people, the Mark Hymans of the world, they always talk about longevity and optimizing their body, doing certain things. It's the same idea. These humans that are highly athletic already using drugs to further enhance their bodies. And there's people involved like Brian Johnson, who's another longevity expert, like Mark Hyman. That's
And
going to be
he's
part
an
of it.
expert in the same, like, honestly, like, completely BS way that, hey, I do XYZ and
Yeah.
I believe I'm super healthy. Therefore, I'm going to sell my supplements and everyone should do it. Using themselves as the guinea pig, your N equals one sample size, and somehow that's legitimate enough to make a brand of supplements. And I mean, remarkably, it works. Like, the guy makes a ton of money off selling his crap stack of a
Yeah.
bunch of different supplements.
Yeah.
But
So
that
I
guy's
mean,
crazy. I mean, he gets blood transfusions from his 18-year-old son to be young. I mean, he's like a lunatic.
yeah.
There was like a long form article written about that guy. I forget in what, like, in New York Times or something like that, about his daily routine. I mean, it's so regimented. It's absurd. Like his entire life is set around trying to just live forever, which sorry to break it to you, ain't gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen, bro. Yeah, I mean, hundreds of supplements a day, waking up at a certain
Yeah.
time, whatnot, optimizing body temperatures, whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, and I'm sure he knows that he's not gonna live forever too. He is going to die. Everyone dies, uh, but it's probably a very good moneymaker right now, and that's why he's doing it, right? I
for
mean,
sure. I think this enhanced games idea is kind of interesting in a way. You know, it's funny. Like when I was a kid, like I don't know, a teenager, I would always joke with my friends that like, dude, wouldn't it be cool if they just allowed steroids in sports? You know, it's like almost all the athletes in some sports, like not every sport, but in a lot of sports, are using some performance enhancing drugs anyways.
yeah,
Like I had a professor in med school who he worked at the Olympic Training Center. He was a PhD biochemist, and he was basically like very open. He's like, dude, like 80+% of the guys in the NFL are on the juice. They're on something. He's like, it's just impossible not to. Whether something to enhance recovery, enhance strength, energy drive, whatever. I mean, all this stuff. It's not just steroids. There's a lot of
yeah,
performance enhancing drugs. And I just thought, like, in one way, it would be cool to see a bunch of juiced up people basically maximizing whatever the human potential is.
yeah.
Obviously, there's negative negative consequences too for the people watching at home, and for athletes that are trying to do it in a fair way. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested interested
Yeah, I
to
mean,
watch.
this is what the XFL was supposed to be, right? I mean, imagine if
Right?
XFL was a bunch of juiced up football players hitting each other.
Yeah,
The XFL that was released back in the 90s, and then failed after a couple of years, and then I think was recently just brought back again, and now it's a little bit more spring league kind of. That's I feel like that's what it should have been from the beginning. I mean, this I don't see anything like you said. I mean, there's people, these people play football. Football we know causes CTE. Has harmed a lot of people, has caused a lot of traumatic brain injury. People have suffered, died early, killed people, have had tragic episodes, tragic early deaths in life. So, I mean, people have been playing sports that endangers their life forever. I mean, from the gladiator days to now. This is just one iteration of that, and I don't see a problem with consenting adults wanting to make a bunch of money, putting their bodies on the line. I mean, they understand that their life will be shortened. There's a big chance of getting cardiomyopathies, cardiac arrhythmias, heart failure, heart attacks. That's big risk with a lot of these products, especially when you're enhancing it, and then doing these high impact sports. And these are consenting adults. They want to make money. People go to war because they want to make money. People go, do a lot of crazy stuff, and this
for
is just one
sure.
way. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and it's just interesting. I mean, not even just athletes. I mean, there's a lot of people just day to day in the average population that take performance enhancing substances. I mean, I see so many people in my orthopedic practice that come in for biceps ruptures, triceps ruptures, pectoralis tears, Achilles injuries. These guys are just all on the juice. And you ask them, they're pretty forthcoming. They're like, yeah, I take steroids. Yeah, I just finished my test cycle. And there's just a very, very high rate of tendon injuries and tendon rupture because the muscle grows stronger and bigger and more powerful and more explosive when you take these substances. You work out more, you get stronger. Your tendon and the junction of the muscle and tendon, the myotendinous junction, does not keep up, and there's a very, very high rate of tendon and myotendinous junction injuries in these kind of athletes. But I'm just bringing that up because I see it every day. I mean, there's so many people, just your average people that just want to be jacked. They're not even athletes. They're taking steroids. So I just think it's much more common than we think about it. And I don't know, maybe it's not as taboo as it used to be in society to be on some type of performance enhancing drug.
I
It,
mean,
it kind of goes in line with the whole wellness space.
yeah, the recent data has shown a lot of different things in favor of hormone replacement therapy. Like, hormone replacement therapy is, we know with a lot of strong evidence that it is very safe. It is actually very useful. A lot of patients, and men and women, should be evaluated for hormone replacement therapy in the right way. There's a rise of these low T clinics, and that's kind of where the whole ethical stand idea of the provider that's injecting medication for you, is that provider profiting from the medication they're giving the patient, and are they incentivized to give more and more? That's my problem with a lot of low T clinics. But there's definitely a lot of good evidence behind testosterone replacement therapy. In terms of metabolic health, in terms of muscle health. As you get older, testosterone levels do decrease. And it needs to be tested in the right way. I mean, there's a whole idea of finding out if you have primary hypogonadism or secondary hypogonadism, right? You're supposed to check the right lab results. You're supposed to check your testosterone levels early in the morning. And you have to have two different readings that show your testosterone levels to be low. You should be checking your FSH and LH levels as well to make sure it's not secondary hypogonadism, right? And if it's truly shows that you have low testosterone levels along with symptoms like erectile dysfunction or low sex drive, fatigue, low energy, and a lot of other symptoms that come on with low testosterone levels, then it's definitely indicated, right? So in people in who testosterone replacement therapy is indicated, they definitely needed the benefit from it. Same thing with perimenopausal women, right? The perimenopausal symptoms are very significant. They cause a lot of effects. Hot flashes get women to gain weight. It can fasten their cardiovascular disease because of menopause and the lack of hormones that they're now not producing, their bodies have been used to, and hormone replacement therapy is shown to improve their side effects from perimenopausal symptoms. So definitely there's indication for that, but the evidence has built up over time, and giving steroids, performance enhancing drugs, testosterone therapy unindicated, we don't know what that means. We don't know if someone who already has a testosterone level of 800, 900 and injecting more testosterone, getting them to 2000, 1500, what that will do. We don't have enough data on that, and we know that people who have had that overdose of testosterone replacement therapy, hormone replacement therapy, have suffered and have had heart attacks, have had strokes, have had hypertensive episodes. So we have to be careful, and you wonder sometimes, they say that this will be medically monitored, but what physician and what type of physician will be monitoring them, and who will
You're talking about in the enhanced games.
yeah, in enhanced games, yeah, who will monitor these athletes, and what kind of advice will they give? Because there's no true evidence of you cannot practice evidence-based medicine and then tell them, okay, inject this performance enhancing drug to optimize your health. So you will have to cross some ethical boundaries to be able to advise these athletes, right? I mean, what will you do if one of your patients come in and be like, hey, Dr. Ahmed, be my physician for these games I will be participating in, and advise me on this? What would you tell them?
Gosh, I guess for me it's easy because I'm just a dumb bone doctor. I'd be like, yo, go to an endocrinologist. But I mean, like, joking aside, I would be a bit torn, mainly because I think that, truthfully, Humayun, like the type of doctor that would get into that space and get involved with something like this and managing something in I guess like a non-medical way. Really, this is just like performance enhancement so that these guys can compete and make money. That's going to be more so along the lines of kind of what we were just talking about, these people that are in regenerative and functional medicine, because their practice is very different. It's not even really like a medical practice. It's more like a concierge service and consultation rather like a med spa. Their clients come to them or they have video visits with them, and you kind of give them what they want rather than what you think they need based on a diagnosis. Like, there's no diagnosis here.
Yeah.
Like, there's no treatment. You're just tailoring like a plan for them. Like, it's like a diet plan, just happens to be with injectable cocktails.
Yeah. Well, you said the word diagnosis, and that made me think of another story about dognosis, which is
there you go. Good
one of
segue.
the most interesting stories I've recently read. It's very exciting and
This
promising.
one's awesome. This is really
It
cool.
kind of brings in like biochemistry and biology and AI, kind of combines it.
And Dr. Doolittle, a little dog
Dr.
action.
Doolittle. Yeah, doctor. This is a story out of India in Karnataka. They did a study in 6 different hospitals on around 3,275 patients, where they had dogs sniff these bags. They had people breathe into these bags and sanitized bags, and then have dogs sniff it. And with almost 90% sensitivity, dogs were able to predict if the patient had any signs of cancer, right? Any cancer cells present, which is very interesting, right?
Which is
They were
like
able to.
that's actually like crazy. I mean,
Yeah, crazy. These dogs
90%.
had 10 lead
Yeah.
EEGs attached, which is producing like olfactory signals in the brain. And AI, they were able to use AI to assess and predict 7 different types of cancer: oral, breast, esophageal, cervical, lung, colorectal, and prostate cancer, which is amazing. I mean, this is an amazing use of technology, AI, and something very cheap. I mean, the cost of this was ridiculous. I mean, very cheap. Dogs, pretty
Yeah,
much
it's
just
like
dogs.
$50 to get tested compared to like almost $1,000 for the
Yeah,
so-called standard of care blood test for early detection. And it's
yeah,
better than the standard of care blood test for early detection by like
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, just I said 90% sensitivity. That means 9 out of 10 early stage cancers were detected by this technology, by dog sniffing it, and it blew my mind. I mean, the thinking that went behind it. This company, it's called Dognosis, and they have a lot of different uses of this
I
dog
love the
sniff.
name too,
Yeah,
Diagnose. I mean, it's such a
yeah,
clever name, dude.
yeah, yeah.
It's
This
easy to
is
remember. But like, while reading about this, we were talking about this a little offline. I mean, the stats are absurd when you think about it. Like the
yeah,
average human, in the olfactory center, olfaction meaning the smelling center, the average human in the olfaction center of the brain has about 6 million connections or neurons. But a dog in their olfaction section has 300 million. I mean, like 300 million versus 6 million. I can't even fathom like how much of a dog's interaction with their world and their brain usage is based on smell, and like how much more and like granular their sense of smell is than ours. I mean, it's absurd. Like you smell something nice, like I don't know, like peanut butter. I think everyone likes to smell of peanut butter as an example, or like
yeah,
freshly cut grass or maple syrup, whatever. Things that just smell objectively good. And you're like, oh wow, that smell. You recognize it, and you recognize a smell you haven't smelt in a while. It kind of like lights up something in your brain. A dog must feel like that 24/7. I mean, their sense
yeah.
of smell is so sharp compared to ours. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like probably the reason why they're so good at smelling even little cancer molecules. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, we've been using dogs for like kind of, their sense of smell for a lot of things, like sniffing out drugs or finding prey or
Even in
hunting.
the military, like finding bombs and IEDs and stuff.
Yeah, bombs, IEDs. But this, I mean, imagine dogs are one animal who we understand. Like we humans have spent the most time with dogs. We understand their strength and sense of smell, and what smelling, what kind of skills they have. And this company was able to harness that 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 strength that the dogs have, and to possibly produce cancer detecting diagnosis where cancer can be detected very early. I mean, what else can be done, right? I mean, imagine like
Yeah,
how
the
how
possibilities, right?
how AI can be used to use that sense of smell for many different things, and then also look at other animals and their strengths, right? Some people have like some animals have amazing vision, right, or sense of sonar signaling, right? What can AI do using those signals to future identify different patterns, and then use that to predict things or visualize things. So I think the possibilities are endless. I mean, I think there's a whole space now that can use animal senses to produce signals for AI to be able to predict things for us, right? We can harness technology from animals, their skills, their strength, their biological makeup to use it for human advancement. And
Yeah, and animals have been used like that for a long time. I mean, not just like lab mice, but I mean, even in battle, like elephants have been used in warfare, horses, cavalry, um, even like bears. Russia used bears during World War I to help carry like artillery shells. Apparently, and this is like a little bit, I don't know how true this is, but this has been touted a lot that using whales or even dolphins as like naval trainees
Mhm.
has been used. It's pretty crazy. I mean, one thing that I think is interesting about this, there's like the applicability of something like this, like a dog sniffing mechanism, because it took like a long time to train the dogs. Like in some cases, up to 18 months. 18 months is a long time. Um, and like how good the dog is. And they tested some specific dog breeds, I think like beagles, Labradors, So it's still a question of like what specific dog breeds are there, how long are you going to train them for, the lifespan of the dog now, because 18 months of training is quite a bit of investment to do this.
Yeah.
And then what like HLA groups or phenotypes of humans, like what races, genders, age groups, human diets are very different that lead to different body odors, different types of cancer, all the different subtypes. Like there's not just esophageal cancer. There's so many different types and subtypes of that have different compounds. So like for the dog to smell and detect everything, like this is an early stage study. It's still in a trial phase and it's very promising, and I think it's awesome. But these are all factors that could be potential, not necessarily limiters to this use, but it could kind of dampen how broad and widespread the utilization of something like this becomes.
Yeah, I mean, this is far off from like, any kind of mainstream use. There's early phase data showing some promise, and I think it needs to be advanced more and developed more. But it opens up a lot of possibilities, and once there is an initial case use, then it can build on that, and kind of build like a lot of third world countries, a lot of sub-Saharan countries or Asian countries. Countries that don't have the same healthcare facilities, I mean, and the costs are high, cannot get a simple mammogram or a chest CT for lung cancer screening, a colonoscopy or endoscopy to detect certain types of cancer, right? I mean, and lifespans are much shorter. I mean, now if this is available, it can detect 9 out of 10 early cancers. Diagnosis can be much faster in some of the patients, and maybe even a much cheaper early treatment, right? I mean, if someone just has some early diagnosis of colon cancer that can be detected, they can actually get a colonoscopy. It can be indicated, and they would be willing to kind of you can standardize colonoscopy for those patients in those resource limited countries.
Yeah, you
right?
could intervene earlier, and yeah, definitely.
You can
For
intervene
sure.
earlier. So I think the possibilities are endless. I mean, I think in a country like United States where everything is so profit driven and healthcare has become like a money making machine, where CTs and mammograms and advanced blood tests are so prevalent, where people, insurances, Medicare, all that are willing to pay for it. Yeah, maybe it'll be slow to adopt, slow to take over, but in a lot of other countries, I think this could have a lot of a lot of use application. So
No, for
I think
sure.
it's
I
exciting.
could also see like some regulatory red tape, like like to make this applicable on mass scale, you'd have to have like a giant farm of just like
Dogs.
thousands of dogs sitting there. Here, smell this, smell this. Like that could. That's definitely like something that's going to get the
Yeah.
animal rights folks freaked out. Like PETA is going to lose their mind on this. Dognosis is going to be public enemy number one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe yeah, I mean, dogs' life matters, and
Right, right, right. DLM, baby,
yeah,
DLM.
I mean, people will be able to donate their pets. I mean, you can. This can be a job in the AI era, right? Where when a lot of people are losing their jobs, you can be a dog trainer at home that trains a diagnosis dog, and take care of them and have them be available for testing when they need to. So I mean, yeah, you don't have to have mass farms. You can have certain jobs and assigned to people, and people can. People always love having dogs, anyways. So and then maybe they can get paid for it as well, and so just like they can have 5 dogs, and they can be training 5 dogs and have own small businesses of dog training. So the possibilities are endless. But
Yeah, yeah,
imagine
like
what we,
decentralize it a bit.
yeah, imagine what we can do with for example, like eagles or someone who's known for their vision, or
Right, right.
animals that can like uh, find prey from top of water, inside water, and catch fish that way, who have certain senses that we don't know and we have not harnessed yet, and using now animal sensory you know um, animal senses to kind of harness that and use it for our advantage can be a big deal. So very exciting.
It
A
is
lot.
cool. It's really cool. I think it's like a very ingenious thing to using something that already exists, just repurpose it. Like dogs
Yeah,
already smell like freaking amazing. Make them
yeah,
smell cancer. It's such
I
a
mean,
like simple but genius idea.
yeah. I mean, humans have been, kind of accomplishing a lot of amazing things, and I mean, the past 150 years, or even past 100 years of innovation, has led us to like, a lot of these amazing discovery, and now we're in the age of AI. But space is also a very interesting topic, and we just recently had the Artemis 2 launch where
Yeah.
a bunch of people went to, and it kind of made me think. We're talking about the human body and what people have done to optimize the human body, but space can have a lot of impact on the human body as well. And there's been many experiments of even twins going into space. One twin goes into space, and the other
Yeah.
twin
Kelly
stays
brothers,
on Earth.
right?
Yeah, and then they can compare and see, like, what were the changes. So I know you have a lot to say about this. This is your area of expertise, and the effect of space on the human body. So this is I want to
Yeah, it's. I
expand.
mean, it's super interesting. I would never claim to be an expert. I mean, I do work with like the Center for Space Medicine and NASA regarding this stuff, and like mainly, this was a 10-day mission, okay, and that's what a lot of these missions are. I mean, the whole shuttle program, and now our whole goal with NASA to go back to the moon, and then in the next several years, return again and actually land on the lunar surface and
Go
walk
back to
on
the
it
moon?
again.
What do you mean go back to the moon?
Back to the moon, baby.
Yeah, you went in the first place. You believe in
I
that?
like it, the conspiracy, the moon landing. But yes.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, like in this whole back to the moon thing, yes, back to the moon. Um, what are the changes that are going to happen with prolonged time in space flight and in microgravity? What's going to happen to the human body when you're in space with almost no gravity for one, a lot more radiation for two because you're outside of the Earth's magnetosphere. You don't have the resistive forces on the muscles and the skeleton, the changes in fluid shifts. I mean, there's so much stuff that changes in space. Like vision across the board decreases in space. Your optic nerve gets edematous in space. So astronauts have vision changes who were otherwise they had perfect vision in space. That happens to many, many astronauts. Your immune system in general doesn't work as well in space because your immune cells cannot home in and extravasate, meaning leave the blood vessels and get to the site of an infection or even an injury in space. So, in fact, these healthy astronauts, I mean, traditionally astronauts were much more commonly men, and now there's a lot more females too. But in the early days of the astronauts, in the early shuttle missions, these males in their late 30s, early 40s, an overall very healthy group. It would be unheard of for a human on Earth who's 35 to 40 years old, a human male, to get a UTI. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like almost 40-50% of the astronauts were getting UTIs, which is
Wow.
crazy. And it's because the immune system wasn't working. Simultaneously, even crazier is that pathogens, bacteria, actually increase their pathogenicity and their virulence factors in space. Something about the microgravity environment enhances that, which now you're getting hit from both sides. Your immune system gets depressed, and bacteria increase their ability to cause and create an infection. The cardiovascular effects are tremendous because all your fluid, without gravity, you get a cephalad or a cranial shift in the fluid. So it's an increased demand and load on the heart. You
Hmm.
also get like increased, like a ton of headaches and pressure in the head. And then all the musculoskeletal changes. You lose bone density in space. You lose muscle mass in space. You have a lot of rotator cuff and labral injuries in space. That's something we've published on, is that astronauts have a disproportionate rate of injuries in space to their shoulder girdle because you can't walk in space. Everything is you grab and propel, and that's not what the shoulder and the rotator cuff were designed to do. These are just like a little sampling of stuff.
Yeah.
So many things happen in space in these astronauts that are aboard the ISS, the space station, for like 6 months at a time. So now if you're thinking of like what NASA is talking about and actually planning in the Artemis 3 and Artemis 4 missions, like a lunar base, and then further to go to Mars and even establish a longer term colony on Mars, or even going to Mars is like a year and a half mission. You have to have contingencies for this stuff because what do you do if someone has a severe infection in space? You don't have the ability to get imaging. You don't have the ability to get real labs in space. I mean, the ability to confirm diagnosis is severely limited. The ability to treat, like how much stuff do you take with you? And is that stuff going to work the same in the absence of normal gravity versus how it does on Earth? What if someone breaks a bone in space? Can a fracture even heal in space in the absence of gravity and the normal forces on the bone? How are you going to set it? How are you going to manage that person? Now they've become a liability because every single thing, every person, when you go into space, every kilogram is accounted for. Everything is mission critical. You don't have any spare capacity. So there's so many factors that are huge question marks, like for NASA, for commercial space flight, for everybody, that are still unanswered.
Yeah, I think this is where I think the one guy that comes into mind when you talk about space is Elon Musk. I mean, his sole mission in life is to make human beings the interplanetary species, right? SpaceX now, if you just heard the news, SpaceX, so he has this company called XAI, right? And XAI just got merged with SpaceX. Now, a lot of it was done for the IPO reasons. SpaceX was going to go IPO and needed mass funding because of the initial public offering. So he combined his AI company with SpaceX as well. Um, but I can see that as a play in the future where also, Elon Musk is working through Tesla on Optimus, which is, I think it's called Optimus. I forgot the name. Yeah, but Optimus
Yeah.
robots. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong on the name. I might be
I
forgetting.
think it is Optimus, but I'm also like very surprised that somehow that wasn't trademarked by like Hasbro and the Transformers.
Yeah, yeah. So he's yeah. That's why I'm having doubts. I was like, was it not trademarked? Yeah, but
Yeah.
he is working on the Optimus, and apparently these robots are very smart, and they are using a lot of the artificial intelligence through XAI in them, and they can understand things and have bodies that can be very agile. Now you wonder, like starting off, if the goal is to get to Mars and be interplanetary species, and space travel and space being in space can be such a huge burden on the human body. Is it even possible for a human body to get to Mars and survive that long mission all the way there? And as the gravitational pull gets lower and lower, the effects will get much harder as well. So that has to have played in Elon's mind, where these Optimus models, with their artificial intelligence, will be what build those colonies of Mars and Moon base in the future, where they can go in, build the colonies for eventually humans to come in and then kind of inhabit, right? Sometimes it makes me wonder that if that's part of the plan. I don't know if he's explicitly came out and said that,
It's a
but
cool
robot,
idea. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, basically get the robots to build it and then we just go. Obviously, there's still consequences of that duration of travel, and Mars gravity is different. And even, like, there's so many unanswered questions. I think it's so fascinating to think about because everything we know about the human body it's actually what we know about the human body on Earth. We don't know about the human body anywhere other than Earth.
yeah,
And I mean, can humans even procreate? Can a child even be born outside of the Earth
yeah.
exact milieu of environmental factors? Like, is it even possible for a fetus to develop if you don't have the normal gravitational forces on it? Because, I mean, you remember from developmental biology, it starts off as just like a wad of cells, and the alignment and change of the cells and how they grow and expand in certain areas and not in others is critically dependent on like signaling pathways, different axes of development, the cilia, the little micro hairs, how they guide molecules. All of that stuff has very much to do with gravity. If gravity is eliminated,
Yeah.
the fluid shifts and stuff within the uterus, within the womb, the blood flow, umbilical arteries, and all that stuff. I mean, no one knows the answer to this stuff.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
hasn't been tested.
if you believe in evolution, I mean, human bodies are the way they are. Our body structure, our cells, our organs are the way they are because we're on Earth. Not we're on Earth, and because that's if
Yeah,
that's
we've adapted to Earth. Yeah.
we've adapted to Earth, right? And our bodies are this way. Our cells work this way because we live on Earth. And when we move on to Mars and other planets, will our bodies be able to function? And that's why I think we'll have to recreate these same exact conditions on the Moon, on Mars, if we want to be interplanetary species. And for that, you'll have to have something that's more, can survive those conditions, like robots with artificial intelligence to build those environments for us first, and then build.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
that's
think,
why,
it's funny, like in that idea of terraforming, like, creating an environment similar to Earth on a different planet. Elon, he said, like, he says a lot of outlandish stuff, but obviously the guy delivers in terms of the success of a lot of his ventures. He talked about, like, in one thing, like just purposely detonating thermonuclear weapons
yeah,
on the poles of Mars to create, like, some
some,
cataclysmic effect and, like, a warming and melting the poles and creating running water and all this stuff. And, like, that would be a rapid way to help terraform and get plants eventually and all this stuff. And
yeah.
oxygen ratios would increase. I'm like, just nuke Mars, huh? That's the
I
plan.
mean, that's the planet. The constant nuclear reaction on Mars that creates a
Yeah.
sun-like object that produces heat and energy for Mars. So it's, I mean, this guy, I mean, he, you know, no matter what you think of Elon, and you know, he has a lot of crazy ideas. He has says a lot of crazy stuff, but he has a goal. He's one-minded. I mean, his goal is for humans to be interplanetary species. Everything else he does is to enhance and expedite that goal, right? And all his companies, he thinks that's his final mission, and that's what he wants to be known for. And he, for all his quirks, he has delivered a lot of great things, a lot of innovation. And this is the next frontier for him. I mean, he's getting there, and you know.
Oh, no doubt. I
He,
mean, he's a true mad scientist.
yeah,
Like that's
I
for
mean, he's
sure.
truly mad.
But you know what? What I think is fascinating in all this stuff regarding space and like people talking about the future of space and long-term plans and all, so much of it, especially the commercial space flight guys, like these rich guys like Bezos and Branson and Musk, none of them at all talk about or focus on or are devoting their research to the changes in human physiology and the biological changes in space. All of them are just kind of in a contest with each other to have another rocket that goes to space, be the one that takes the astronauts up in the Dragon capsule, you know, the one that is contracted with the ISS. All of it is based on the engineering and the physics and the rocket technology. But really, what's our actual rate limiting step is not how much fire we can burn from a metal cylinder. You know, like we've understood the rockets, like, and rocket technology will continue to improve. There hasn't been any breakthrough in countermeasures for the changes to human physiology, and that's going to be the biggest rate limiting thing, and that's hard to address because that is what takes real long-term studies and real science, and it's very hard to do because your sample size will always be tiny in space. How do you address that?
Yeah.
And no one is looking at that in very much detail, and that's why, you know, I think the budget cuts that have happened to NASA are catastrophic, because with this stated goal of making humans an interplanetary species living outside of Earth or having the ability to live outside of Earth, yet you're cutting funding to the one institution that actually is devoting money to researching human biology and its changes in space, you're counteracting that goal.
But there's been a lot of big rise in a lot of private companies, right, who are working a lot of different spaces, a lot
Yeah,
of
but that's
different
what I'm
spaces.
saying. None of them are looking at that human biology side to this extent. They can't, because to run an experiment on astronauts, you've got to have approval and funding that goes through NASA, and you've got to have the study done, you know, on the ISS, the International Space Station, because these little rocket missions that are shot up, they're not long term enough to really give you any meaningful data.
Yeah.
You've got to do it in a long term setting, and that setting is the International Space Station.
Yeah, and maybe their argument is that once first we have to get there properly and be able to stay there and come back to for us to do any further human studies and trials and to learn more about it. But there's a lot of things we can do here to recreate those because we know enough about the conditions and they can be recreated on Earth to kind of study that, right?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there's analog models for attempting to recreate some stuff like bed rest studies, you know, but like these are all surrogate environments and none of them are really that representative because, like a bed rest study, yeah, you'll get muscle and bone loss, but you're not going to get all the other effects. And the astronauts are not in bed rest. They're actively doing stuff despite muscle and bone loss. You know,
Yeah.
like I agree with you. There are analog models because that's the best we have, but they're not the real thing.
Well, just like the whole theme, the amazingness of the human body, the human mind, dogs, and I think we're going to continue advancing as a human race, and we'll continue talking about it on Two Dogs One Mic.
There you go, baby.
All right.
We'll catch you all next
Well,
time.
next time.